Hello everyone, I greet you in the name of God Almighty. My name is Apostle Newton Silas, and today we have a very interesting video to react to. As a matter of fact, Douglas make a very strong allegation, and then he says that something is about to happen that will end up destroying the whole UK. I don't know if it is something to create fear or something of that nature, but without any further ado, let's get down to the video and listen to him.
Let's lay out the basic argument. So you're not concerned with any kind of temporary European malaise or questions of slow economic growth, which is a lot of what we hear on the other side of the big water. Again, I'm quoting you. Europe today has little desire to reproduce itself, fight for itself, or even take its own side in an argument. By the end of the lifespans of most people currently alive in Europe, Europe will not be Europe, and the peoples of Europe will have lost the only place in the world we had to call home, close quote. 2 years later, you stand, but that's a very dramatic statement. 2 years later, you stand by that.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, in the lifespans of, as I say, most people, it'll be a different place. It already is, and I lay some of that out in remorseless detail in The Strange Death of Europe. Sometimes when things happen relatively slowly, people get used to things, they adapt. I give the example of the census in the UK, the last census in the UK, which showed that in 23 out of 33 London boroughs, people who identify as white British are in the minority in those boroughs. So that in the lifespan of, I mean, you can either like that, dislike it, or feel benign about it. But that's a massive change in just one person's lifespan already.
John Cleese tweeted, as we taped this, I think it was last week, John Cleese of Monty Python fame tweeted, "London no longer seems to be an English city." I think that's a close paraphrase, if not a quotation. And he was attacked, the attack, as attacks are on Twitter.
Yeah.
But he was correct.
He was correct. I mean, and by the way,
factually correct.
What he said is effectively what is boasted about by politicians, including the mayor of London and the previous mayor of London. They say, it's an international city. They're very happy about that.
Right.
But if somebody says, well, that means it's not an English city anymore, then they attack somebody like, whether it's John Cleese, me, or whoever, for heresy. I mean, it's very interesting, by the way, isn't it? I mean, John Cleese was attacked for the heresy of Life of Brian, 40 years ago. Yes. He's attacked by the clerics now. It's just they're the clerics of the far left and the social justice movements and so on. They just happen not to wear frocks like his previous critics. But it's the same phenomenon. I've debated and discussed these issues for years now, and I know every one of the moves that people do. The number of dishonest moves, things like, that's not the case. Okay, that is the case. That is the case, but you shouldn't say it. Or, that is the case, and it's great, suck it up.
To come back to the realities of what we're now confronting, and you've been writing about this immigration policy over the years, I don't know what a coherent immigration policy for Western countries might look like. You might have an observation on that, but it hasn't been coherent for a long time. Nowhere more so, I would argue, than in America today on their southern borders. So we have large numbers of barbarians inside our gates. That's the reality. I mean, look at France.
Yep.
They must be really nervous. Mind you, they're pretty tough.
Yeah,
they're police forces. But what might happen, in your view, if the situation in the Middle East escalates? Are we going to have more? I shouldn't probably say this. I don't want to sound alarmist, but we shouldn't forget 9/11. Who do we have in our midst now, and what might they do?
Well, we have a crux point, in my view, coming up in the UK on the 11th of November when there is Muslim groups, Palestinian groups, pro-Hamas groups in the UK have announced what they call the Million Man March in this city on Remembrance Day, on Armistice Day, when they will again defile the cenotaph and the statues of our dead and our war leaders. And I believe that the British people will not take this lying down. I think that the police in the UK have failed by allowing people to march through our streets, past our monuments and holy places, past Westminster Abbey and much more, chanting Allahu Akbar and Jihad, Jihad. The police have protected the people doing that and have tried to arrest anyone who dislikes that.
Is it their fault?
The police? Yeah. Many of the policemen themselves are highly frustrated about this, I know that. But it's the advice that they have. They don't want to be like the French police who run in and baton everyone over the head. Although, by the way, it's worth noting that the Republic in France has had the president banned protests, and the protests went ahead. Very, very bad sign in the life of this republic. But in the UK, it's different. Our police force behave differently, and policing by consent and all of these sorts of things. But clearly they've lost control of the streets. Now, is it time to send in the army at some point? Probably yes. But if the army will not be sent in, then the public will have to go in, and the public will have to sort this out themselves. And it'll be very, very brutal. It'll be very brutal because there is no the soul of England, the soul of Britain, is about to be trampled on very, very visibly by people who are gleeful in their trampling. And they have defaced and defiled all of our holy places. And I know that the British soul is awakening and stirring with rage at what these people are doing. These people came into our house. Many of them broke into our house illegally. Many of them were never wanted here. And they have come here, they have betrayed all of our attempts at hospitality, they've spat in our faces, and now they want to trample everything we have underfoot. No.
Wow. This is terrifying. I think that if they said that I am from Britain, then there should be something that differentiates me from someone from Africa, Asia, and then the rest of the continent, right? And then if, for instance, we go to Africa, there is something that should differentiate me, a Nigerian from an Egyptian, and then also from somebody from Morocco, right? That is what their culture and then the foundation in which, in a sense, they are being built. These are some of the things that differentiate us. That is the reason why you can say, oh, this is an African, this is a white man, this is a black man, you know, that kind of a thing, right? I don't mean racist, I mean just to make an analogy. Now, when you see some of these things, in a sense, happening, in the Europe, is it that Europe no longer want their identity anymore? Or is there anything wrong for somebody to say that, look, I want to preserve, you understand, my culture, I want to preserve my identity? Is that supposed to be a problem? And if somebody feels that, no, look, I have right, in a sense, to preserve my identity, then why should that be a problem? And that is the reason why I have always said that there is a need for people to learn to be tolerant, and then ability to be able to integrate into one society, especially when you are visiting. Now, people migrate, in a sense, into Britain and then end up, in a sense, bringing their cultural beliefs, their religion into Europe, and then therefore causing problems, and then forgetting the fact that in the process of trying to do that, there are some people that will object whatever you are trying to do, and then when they object, and then it becomes what? A problem. And then that is the reason why you see some of these European, or should I say Britain precisely, is having problem with a lot of Muslim immigrants. Why is it that they do not have problems with the Ukrainian immigrant, for instance? But why is it that they're having problem precisely the Muslims? It's because of why? Different in religious belief. Because of both religion, they doesn't have different foundation in which they are built. So you don't expect to fuse both and then you expect a better result. No, it's not gonna be like that. And then that's why what Douglas has been warning and been advocating, you understand, that this is the dangers of allowing illegal immigrant into Britain, that this is what's gonna happen. And then that is the reason why we could talk about, as he mentioned, the 1 million man march, in a sense, for the pro, you understand, Muslims and then stuffs like that. Because as they go there and then they are there, of course they want to practice their religion, they want to practice their culture, they want to support what is really going on between Israel and the Palestine, even though that tend to divide so many nations. People tend to have different opinion when it comes to this kind of issues. And then in a situation whereby people are supposed to have applied, or maybe the leaders could have applied diplomacy in fixing their problems, but they did not do so, and then some decide to take side and end up polarizing everyone and makes the situation worse. And then that is the reason why you see this war against, you understand, Palestine and the one of Russia and Ukraine, everything is still ongoing. Why? It's because of what? Taking side and not fixing the real problem. So are we going to shy away that some of these problems, you understand, are not there? No, they are there, and we have to fix them. If we do not fix them, these are they keep degenerating, and then it keep on, you understand, becoming more problem and more problem, you understand, for everyone, and it's making the world not a safer place. And then that's the reason why we are saying that, what, look, people need to learn how to integrate into one society. When you find yourself in one society, please don't try to change the person. You can only advise the person. I understand that no culture is kind of static, it's dynamic, and then since it is dynamic, you don't kind of force or impose some of these things, you understand, on the people. You can only advise them. If they are accepting, so